Haters gonna hate.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the IGW Dev Talk. Today's moderator will be Dennis. Hello, Dennis.
Hello.
And we'll be talking about the PvE content and PvP content, possibly. Ask me anything you'd like to have answered, and feel free to come in to the Dev Talks and just discuss things related to IGW before we launch. So Dennis, could you start with some questions?
The first of all is in the PvP, the meta. For example, some things may be strong at one time.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you planning to keep the meta changing a bit?
So, I do like the way that the meta is done in League of Legends. You call that a flat progression, where you don't really go with power creep. So that's something different than games such as I will not name it, but there's this one game that has been going on for many years now after IGW got shut down, and they went to Dragon Ball. We intend to make it so that if there will be new content added, it is not going to experience rapid growth like in the Shonen Jump anime. Because this is not going to work well for an MMO project over many years. Whenever a new expansion is added to World of Warcraft, they raise the cap for the characters, and you go from level 50 character up to like level 120 or something, and every year this is going to gradually grow, and there are other ways to go around that and without limiting your opportunities for the future. And as we've discussed on the previous dev chat, a very big problem that MMOs had in the past is the fact that when those games were created, people expected them to only last about 3 years. No one expected MMOs to be a genre that would be played for the next decades. So the way we're going to approach the meta in PvP is the content creep and power creep is going to be capped. It's most likely going to increase over time, but it's not going to, go very drastically. At least that's something that we would like to avoid at all costs. If we ever create something that will increase the power levels of everything, we would like it to be balanced so that everything is increased, not just like a particular type of fleet. So that you want to have a situation that there will only be one thing in the meta, and nothing else available to the players. If you have that situation, the gameplay experience becomes polarized, and you only see one character in the game for the next few weeks or few months, and that's really boring from the gameplay perspective. I would very much rather have a diversification of fleets that you can use, and if there's a new character or a new fleet that comes out, it could have special abilities that would make its gameplay differentiated from others. It would have its counters, it would also counter other things, but it would always be a double-edged sword, so that people can actually just play it and enjoy it, rather than play it for 3 months, beat everybody, and then discard the ship and get a new, bigger stick. I mean, that's the way I see it. What do you think about this approach, Dennis, or Corellin? Anyone else like to add something to that? Very welcome.
Oh, it's good to keep chasing the meta a bit. So first of all, the game doesn't stall, and players don't figure out the best way and keep spamming that.
Mm-hmm.
And the second is that's why you basically want to have the best players be the ones that can adapt to the most.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
If-
I totally agree with that, and that's what League of Legends is doing very well. For example, I mean, they're shifting characters and changing them every 2 weeks, and it's always done in a fair way. Also, it's done programmatically, so that you can see that this character is broken, and if people are using it, their win rate is 60%. Well, that's a good indicator that you should probably nerf it to keep the gameplay balanced, and that's going to be the approach we're taking. If something will be too OP, it is going to be nerfed, and something else will be buffed, so that players would be rewarded by using more options rather than sticking to one type of thing forever. It's always better to differentiate the gameplay experience for everyone.
Yeah. But this is easier to do for fleet versus fleet battles. Well, what about fleet against base battles?
Yes, I mean, if you're gonna look at it this way, first of all, we can add more variety to bases, so that you would have different types of defenses or bombs that you can lay in the base. Just as there are tech requirements for, energy caps and things that limit your power per fleet, we can do things that limit power per base, and we could make it so that there would be more variety in the things that you can lay out in your base over the next years to come. So it's also going to make a change if there's going to be a new character added that redefines the way that you do fleet versus base. That will also influence that. So even if we don't change anything to bases, if the thing that is used for base hitting, which are fleets, receives a change, then the meta for fleet versus bases will change. People will always find the most efficient ways of blowing things up, and I think that there will be no problems with that for the player base.
Yeah. Well, because base attacks is basically have as much damage as you can, and stuff like accuracy doesn't really matter.
Not really. There's an art to hitting bases. You just don't take your best fleet and run into a base and hammer as much as you can. The people have really know how to crack open a base, they use like two or three fleets because there's certain structures you can kill that doesn't go against the 25% bubble.
Yep.
So you come in basically in the gist of it, you have a base opening fleet and then a base raiding fleet. The opening fleet destroys the
Kamikaze.
shield walls and the pylons. And once you've opened that up, you have a hammer fleet that isn't really a lot of defense. That's the mop up fleet where you go in to get as much loot as you can. So maybe if you don't have any friends, hopefully your second fleet is well hidden so no one finds it while you're opening the base.
Yeah. But it basically means that base battles are a bit more the same than actual fleet battles.
Yeah, but then again, they're gonna differ by the new content that we add into the fleets themselves. So if you're gonna have a dreadnought that has an ability to deploy its own pylons, that could be very OP against bases. So you could basically take out the pylons while deploying your own pylons that would take away the enemy fire, and you'd have a free line of sight towards the enemy pylons that way. And I think that this kind of gameplay things, as they get added into the game, they will differentiate the combat experience greatly. So it's going to stay fresh and relevant, even if the base would not change at all. And we intend on adding different mines and defensive structures that would complement things that already exist. Not to mention that it would be cool if we could expand upon the things that you can do proactively while you're defending the base, if you know what I mean. Because right now you can actually select the weaponry in your base and target other players who are attacking you. So you can say, okay, specifically focus fire on that one ship, which is a feature that I haven't really seen in any other games such as Clash of Clans and whatnot. I mean, you're just sitting there and waiting for that thing to end. Whereas in IGW, basically select your defenses. I think it would be cool if the bases would receive an option to defend with fleet, and maybe if you want a fleet versus fleet battle, you could get blueprints, whoever wins. So who knows? Like those are all opportunities that we can explore, and it would be interesting to see that.
Yeah. And something else, which is also well seen a lot in the previous version of the game, was that most bases were either a big cube with all the pylons in the corner, or basically having all your buildings in a grid with pylons in between. But that will keep bases a bit versatile.
I mean, there is some versatility, to be honest, and I've seen a few different base designs, and with the way that you got to calculate your way into the enemy structure, I think there is a lot of opportunities for making unique bases. And I mean, you can argue that something like Clash of Clans cannot have unique bases, but because they're all almost the same. But that's not necessarily true, because all designs are unique in a sense. So yeah, it's gonna be different whenever you hit someone else. The best strategy is very similar, but if we make some new weaponry, some distortion fields or whatnot, who knows? Maybe the meta can change, and the ways that the bases are built will also differ. But that's just gonna have to wait for the future. But until then, there's gonna be a lot of variety in the ways that the bases are built.
Yeah, with IGW, it's not so much as building a base that is unbreakable. It's more of the design of making a base that it's like the attacking player goes, well, it's just not worth hitting.
Yeah, I hit up the base of Leonidas in the closed alpha that we currently have. I mean, Leonidas has been tasked with making some base designs, and I will be making videos of them hopefully soon. I was just very busy with other tasks, so I couldn't really take care of that. But to be honest, I just went into the first base that he created, and holy shit, my legendary fighters, everything fully legendary, got just blown away in a matter of 15 seconds. I mean, fighters are not the best thing for cracking pylons. Oh, these ones had equipped, ballistary devices, so the most OP graviton bombs, legendary graviton bombs, and they just got decimated. I lost 100%, and he only lost 1%. So a good base design can exist, and I would not hit this base, to be honest, if I didn't have to.
But some people like the challenge of bases like that. I mean, you'll see in zone chat that, oh, someone got hit and just accidentally 25% of it. And usually, people are like, well, hold on, let me do some repairs quick. I'll drop my bubble, and then you can hit it. It's a lot. How can I say? The competition is a lot friendlier if you can understand that phrase.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. I guess it's not as cutthroat.
It's almost to kind of see like who can like come out on top pretty much, like to see if the base will hold on, not necessarily for the resources, but just like almost like an ego kind of thing.
Oh, you'll see a lot of people asking, "Hey, so and so, do you want to hit? I want a base test. Can you hit my base to see how?"
Does it mean have the ability to disable your base bubble so someone can test your base properly?
Well, if you've got a bubble, all you have to do is hit someone else's base and your bubble drop.
Yeah.
So basically, they send a fighter in, shoot a pylon, and then escape from battle, and their bubbles drop.
So are you asking for the ability to drop your bubble without doing that?
You can just hit someone, and
yeah, you just send in.
You just attack someone randomly with any fleet, and you're done.
Now you have to attack a base to drop your bubble. you can't attack someone's fleet.
Oh,
That won't drop
that's
your
true. My bad. But still, you can just attack any base with any fleet practically. I mean, some of them are going to be too strong for you. There are caps on what you can attack, of course, but still, you can just take some random fleet and attack some random base. As long as you can hit it, you can get it.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
people usually just make a fleet of just one fighter and just send it to its.
well, it's still a bit impractical.
Yeah, I mean, it's better to have a bubble. Let's be honest. It's not that bad of a feature to have your resources protected from everything. But at the same time, if you're going to war, I mean, you know, you might want to lose that bubble anyway.
Well, you can't build the better base without getting hit.
Yeah, of course. But you just do it with trial and error. Like the first time I did my base in IGW, it was a horrible design, to be honest. So, and
I remember the first base I built. I just put up one single wall, assuming everyone just came in the same, so I didn't surround it.
Yeah, feeling like the French with the
Hello.
line. Hello.
So yeah,
Hello, Miko.
early bases didn't survive very quick.
Yeah, I would also like to ask a bit about free against paid players in PvP. Like, what are the advantages of paid players?
Advantages of paid players?
Yeah.
Well, Corellin, you are a veteran of IGW. You can say what's the difference between a coiner and a non-coiner, because that's what you call them in this particular game. So people who can blow $10,000 and people who don't spend that money.
Well, the thing is, with IGW, the creators of the game actually thought about that, and they made it in a way where you can spend your coin to get the best of the best. You know, you find one piece of blueprint, you spend the coin to get the rest of the pieces, have the blueprint. But you'll find that some of the lower level blueprints, like the yellows and the whites, have abilities that kind of rock, paper, scissors the higher stuff.
Can I say something from here? Can I say something
I've
from
seen
here?
people. Oh, sorry.
No, I was gonna ask. Can I say something from there about the two perspective between, a player to a.
Sure, but right after Corellin finishes, okay? One
Sure,
person at a time.
Sure, go
Just
ahead.
mute your mic, please.
I've seen level 80 fleets. I mean, fleets that have had, like Miko said, the best of the best, get chewed up by an instant repair fleet of like whites and greens. You have to actually look at what the weapon does, or what the piece of equipment does, because some of those legendaries can really be hampered by a low level ability that people just don't realize it has.
Yeah, it's like the knowledge you have about the game is the most important thing here. The second one is the skill and how you operate it. And then it's just whether you have the best stuff or not, to be honest. I had countless situations, and there is a video. I will actually play it in the background, where I was fighting against Dark Nexus, and I had legendary ships. I mean, everything was maxed the fuck out, and he would wreck me with basic ships that were just properly equipped against my countermeasures. So,
well, some of the if someone else wants to take over quick, I'm going to bring up my weapons list I had. I got a couple of examples, but I got to find them first.
But it's still a thing where we don't really have. If you're a coiner, you're not going to have an unfair advantage because first of all, the ships don't take that much time to repair, and second of all, if somebody is up against you, they can always stall the battle and just try to, run away. And that's one tactic. I mean, you can try to play, goose with somebody forever if you don't really want to fight. So that's a way to survive an encounter with someone who's way stronger than you. But at the same time, if you actually have a weaker ship that counters the weaponry of your opponent, you're good and you're going to kick his ass. Even if you have like regular common blueprints. But if you are a better pilot and if you have better stuff in the sense that counters his, you're going to win.
Yeah, so basically, pay players basically have to grind less, but even if they have the new fancy stuff, it can still get countered by the lower tech stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's rock paper scissors. Coining will get you there quicker. That's pretty much it. Now that's a big benefit if the events are going on. Like there've been talk about events of where there's just this massive armada coming. You've got to destroy as many ships as possible. People that coin will be able to repair their stuff quicker to go out and deal more damage and kill more ships. But the people that don't have the coin, they'll be able to kill. They've just got to be smarter with what they've got.
Furthermore, they will be able to do it over many weeks. One of the things I believe in as a gamer and developer is that, first of all, not everybody has time to fucking play at, midnight, whatever time the developers say. Like, we're having weekly dev talks every week at 6 p.m. Warsaw time, just so that it's, more convenient for me so that I can actually attend all of them. And but a lot of players are unavailable, especially the ones in Australia. So they're left out from the talks. But if the thing would go on for 2 weeks, that's not an issue. So I know that other games, or like Vega, they're plagued with events that last 2 days, and you then have a limited amount of time before the event ends. And if you don't do that, you lose everything. So we would rather have a situation where the event is going for 2 weeks. No bullshit, you have 2 weeks to accomplish that. That's how good games do it, that's how Warframe does it, and that's the way we want to do it.
So, I mean, a player that has a lot of time can finish it in a day or two, but players that have maybe 2 hours a day can still finish it.
So the players who have less time and only like 2 hours a day, they will be able to finish it over the next 2 weeks, essentially. So basically, if somebody wants to do the event, it might take, let's say, I don't know what kind of event that would be, but that's just a hypothetical one. So let's say he would need to grind for 10 to 16 hours to get the best thing from the event, let's say. But he's going to be able to play for an hour, every day for the next 2 weeks. And if he's going to be a coiner, he's just going to repair those things and he'll play for 3 hours and he'll be done. But it's just going to take less time for him, if that's the case. But at the same time, there will be other ways to do it. And a topic I want to bring up is that we want to make a very big shift in money sinks within IGW and the way that you get the premium currency and the way you spend it. There will be vanity items in Imperium Galactic War. We're going to make it so that every ship will have colors that you can attach to them. So, if you would like to add a color, you're going to have to get the hyperspace paint. I mean, that sounds a bit cheesy, but think about it. I mean, you need to have special paint. You can't just use some Crayolas to paint your ship, because it's not going to survive the harsh environment of space. So that's the lore explanation. And if you want to buy the hyperspace paint, you gotta get it yourself. Or you have to buy it from other players. And those things will be very rare. So if you want to get a white decal, a white paint job for your ship, you're going to have to get the white paint blueprint that you can trade with other players, and it's going to have like a 1 in 10 million chance to drop. So it is going to be very expensive, and it's also going to be a vanity item that would be very sought out, because if you have a white decal, it means that you're the man. It's like owning a Rolex in IGW, just like, you know, the avatars that we're selling in the founder sale. And those items will be taken from other players for gameplay. And if there's a super coiner who can spend God knows how much money on the game, he will have to get those items from those who grind. So the money will be distributed among the player base so that everyone would be able to coin at the expense of coiners, kind of. But in this situation, the people who spend money in IGW would become the patrons of the community. And there would be no negativity attached to it. I think that that's the best approach a video game developer can take. Warframe, which I love and I think is a prime example of how this should be taken care of, does it exceedingly well. You can collect items that are very OP. They're called the Riven mods, and those Riven mods are entirely RNG driven. They are completely random, and whenever you get one, you can trade it with others. But it's a very time-consuming endeavor, and you can sell it to other players. So if you get something very OP, you can sell it for a lot of premium currency, and that's the way we're gonna do it with IGW.
Something else. It don't count for all events, but there's some events where it's like, hey, kill this amount of fleets for this reward. First of all, lower level players have less fleets to do so, and well, how are you gonna keep it fair for them?
Okay, so first of all, I would like to do it in a way that would not break the gameplay experience for everybody, so that you would not be excluded from gameplay. I would like to have the game in a way that it does not encourage you to have the best ship ever, but to have more diversity in the things you own, because some missions would actually require you to go and take dreadnoughts that would have graviton bombs equipped. So you're going to be constantly building different configurations of ships, and so that you can have more and more things in your arsenal. But that's not necessarily going to mean that you're going to be more OP and able to kill other players more efficiently. That will just be used to diversify the gameplay experience so that it does not stagnate and does not get boring very fast. So the new players who will not have the requirements, first of all, I would like to have a lower level equivalent of the same event, and I think that's the best method to go for that. It's like, if you're playing League of Legends and you're a bronze tier player, you get this tier of reward. If you're a higher level player, you get a better tier of reward. But you always get something. So there should be a way for newcomers and newbies to participate in the community events. But at the same time, there's going to be things that will be more rewarding to the higher level players. And I think there is no problem between having a guy who is just starting out getting a different reward from a guy who spent 2,000 hours on the game. I mean, that's just a common thing. But if there's going to be an event with a lot of fleets coming in that you have to destroy, I mean, obviously the fleets that the newbies are going to go for are going to be the fighters or like the lower level ships, whereas the big ones are going to be taken out by the higher level players, and it's just going to take more time for lower level players to accomplish that. In terms of getting the higher level requirements. But at the same time, those events will last enough time for anyone to be able to experience them fully. And we're not going to discriminate anybody for not having a huge wallet.
Also, it's some idea for those event rewards.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what if the low level players get some, well, a new item, and it actually scales with their player level. So if they become high levels, those items will still count as much as if they were high level at the event.
That's the thing. In like, once we roll out the feature of commanders, they will be leveled out, and some of them might already be at like level 5 or something out of 10 or more. It's still going to be up to rebalancing in the future, and it's most likely going to be rolled out once we have the HD version out in around like 16 months. But essentially, those items that the players collect, they will increase their strength to some extent, but there's going to be an overarching limit on what players can achieve with their power. So the game is not going to turn unfair and unjust to everybody, just because they get a drop during this event, and we might do it so that it scales with the player, but that's just up for debate. I think someone wanted to ask something. Spask.
Yeah, basically his question was if it's possible to have a I think an alliance war within a faction.
For now, there is no option like that. We might do something like Alliance Wars as in duels, and I think that could be cool. But it's still in the realm of possibilities, to be honest.
Okay, what else? Also, a bit back about the meta, like earlier today. Two things that were kinda strong in the old game were arc weapons, you know, those strong close range weapons on fighters,
Mm-hmm.
and the so-called instant repair fleets, which are like instantly repaired fleets that can also decimate big
Mm-hmm.
fleets. Won't they mess up the PvP a bit?
Why would they?
Well, for example, you can send some weak instant repair fleet to soften up some big fleets and then easy mode through it. And arc weapons are basically strong against any type
Right,
of
but
fleet.
that's just the same thing as like no scoping in Call of Duty or quick scoping. I mean, there are things that people are gonna do that are fucking annoying. But they are a part of the game, and I don't think that it's bad that there are instant repair fleets. Furthermore, I would like to have the instant repair fleets even more, in the game later on. Like, have a feature where you can queue multiple repairs overnight and increase the actual instant repair time from like 5 minutes to 8 or something with a subscription. And I have no problems with instant repair fleets. I think that's the way it should be, so that you can always play the game without having to spend any money. Of course, it's a pain in the ass to actually take out and put in those fleets every time you do it. So I would love to have a subscription feature where you pay for convenience, where all the fleets could be repaired overnight. But overall, yeah, I have no problems with instant repair fleets, and I think that should be an integral part of the game, so that anyone can play the game for free.
Well, what I noticed, what I remember from the first war is, yeah, when the PvP was going on, people brought instant repair fleets. They weren't in the battle that long. Your instant repair fleets, I found personally, and watching people, they use them for farming, so
Yeah.
they can get out, get the loot, repair, get back out, farm some more blueprints. That's where I've found that the instant repairs were used most often.
Okay, so
Yeah,
that
I can also attest to that real quick. So for me, when I used to play, I didn't really spend any money, so I had to, in order to get blueprints and stuff, I had to grind it out using these repair fleets for like the just say NPC for grinding it out. So I mean, it's a huge advantage to people who don't spend money. I think that's a pretty critical.
Mm-hmm. I mean that's perfect for farming essentially, and I wouldn't like to have that removed at all.
yeah, but that,
Now,
that hmm?
oh, I'm something I can't remember for the life of me. I know fighting NPC fleets. If the NPC wins, the fleet stays damaged. But I can't remember if you're fighting an NPC base, if the base resets itself or not. I think the pylon walls reset themselves, but the damage to the base stays. I can't remember. It's been so long.
Hmm. I think that the base resets itself, like the NPC base, after hitting it.
Yeah,
But
but NPC bases were not as strong as player bases.
Yeah, of course not. Though we plan on adding better, stronger bases in the future. Um, so yeah. But by the way, Spask, did you want to ask something or add something to the player versus coiner? I guess you're muted.
I think not then.
Okay.
But a bit earlier, well, we did cover the instant repair fleets, but another thing that kinda messed up the meta were the arc weapons, because nothing could really counter it at close range.
Yes and no, actually. Um, because the arc weapons are kind of like, and I heard that that was a controversial thing in Vega conflict, which would be the unavoidable damage. But you can actually counter it. You just don't have to fly up to that, you know. I think that the best use for those is to place it on something like a battleship, and then you can destroy pylons like it's nothing. So that's the first one. But if you're playing as a fighter jet and you're fighting against a battleship with those things equipped, there is so many ways you can destroy them, especially with graviton bombs or like rockets. You would outrange them because the range is smallest. If you're talking about arc weapons, you just don't have to fly up to them. If those arc weapons had a range of 1,000 instead of 100, I agree that would be broken and it would be stupid. But to be honest, it's not a problem that you got a weapon you cannot counter at a close range. It means you're not allowed to go in closer or you're gonna get tased. That's as simple as that. You just have to avoid it.
But hold on, I think you misunderstand the thing. Like, did you think arc weapons are for battleships? Because arc weapons are only for fighters and heavy fighters.
Oh,
Like,
but beams.
no, like those arc weapons are in fighters and heavy fighters only. You'd like make a heavy fighter fleet with arc weapons, you fly up to some big battleship fleets, and you destroy them close range. And those battleships can't really escape from it.
Well, unless they have beams by themselves, then if they have this, like, I mean, from what I remember, you have beam weapons. At least in the build I played, there were beam weapons, and holy shit, if you had a fighter and you were going up against something like a battleship, and let's say you had 50 DPS, I mean 50,000 DPS, you would get vaporized, and the battleship would only lose 10% of their hull integrity. I mean that's how I remember encounters. If I had those beams and they had those beams.
But for those big ships to actually counter arc weapons, they need to basically invest half their weaponry into close range weapons, or they have to spread out. And if they spread out, it doesn't really fix it as much.
I still think you got that's a worthy point, but to be honest, I haven't seen it that way. Like whenever I played fighters, they are of course the most fun weaponry to have, and it's cool to just fly around in fast ships, just putting it this way. But yeah, I don't think it's that big of an issue. You can counter it, dude. I mean, you just put in beams on battleship for close range combat, and you vaporize those fighters as they approach you.
Yeah, but I don't remember those disintegration rays actually doing that much damage to the fighters.
Man, they just like vaporize them. At least the ones
Actually,
I had.
I've found that if you got a dreads or I can't remember the class that's just beyond below
Not the
the dread,
battleship.
the battleship. Um, if your battleships are sporting like the implosion bombs or the slow moving AoE stuff, I
The
mean
graviton bombs.
the graviton bombs and stuff, they welcome those fast fighters that have to get in close because they basically got to go right through everything they're firing instead of dodging it.
But it's not that hard on fast heavy fighters to dodge graviton bombs. You can basically spin around the ships.
Graviton bombs are a lot quicker than what people think they are.
I mean, like in the last video I posted, I was basically fighting Leonidas, and no, you can outrun the graviton bombs even without I think
Mass
it's called
lightning.
mass lightning. That gives you 10% extra speed, and with that you can just fly away from any graviton bomb with no problem.
But if you're flying away from the graviton bombs, you're not sitting in close to the ship doing damage.
Yeah,
No,
but
you can circle around it, and it's not a problem. I did that in the you can check the video. I'll have it in the background playing, but it's not that big of an issue, to be honest.
Well, I still wonder what some other people's experiences were with those arc weapons, because personally, I think the last mission in the storyline, which was in Imperium Galactic War, I used my best fleet and I lost kinda hard. So then I tried again with my arc weapon heavy fighter fleet and I won easily.
Yeah, and that's the thing. In IGW, those missions and PvE content will be geared in a way that requires you to change your strategies and use different tactics and ships, and diversify your. I mean, you'll need to diversify your your gear. Now,
Are you talking the arc weapons or the pulsar weapons?
I think arc
No,
here.
yeah, the actual arc weapons, the fighter and heavy fighter only weapons.
That's the one that basically has like the little cone attack?
Yeah.
Okay, because there's also a pulsar weapon where
Yeah, the
it's
AoE one.
AoE.
Kinetic pulsar was that. I think the lowest damage of the three.
Yeah, because I had the neutron pulsar.
But yeah, like.
But what?
Oh, go on.
But what I mean with those arc weapon fleets, like I had disintegrator arcs, but I never really had some fleet which I had a lot of difficulty against with this fleet. It's basically if my main fleet couldn't cut it, I would get my arc weapon fleet, and it's basically always won.
Okay.
Like maybe not in PvP that much, but that may be because I didn't use it in PvP that much. So I'm still not sure what others' experiences are with it.
I mean, I don't think that that's going to be that big of an issue. And like I said, those things will be balanced out. So if something becomes too OP, we're just going to nerf it. And that's it. I mean, if people start overusing it, we're going to make something else stronger and make it slightly weaker.
Yeah.
But
yeah, because I think arc weapons were explosive type damage, and you just build your defense around anti-explosive. If you know, see, that's the thing about this game. You don't know what's going to be in the fleet you're facing, so it's hard to build a defense against something you don't know.
I mean, unless you already had a fight, like let's say you're fighting somebody, then you know what they're up, you know what you're up against, so you can stall the battle, right? And before that battle ends, I mean, after the battle ends, you can stall it as long as you can, come in with a different fleet, and then decimate them with the appropriate weaponry.
Yeah.
That is the best strategy.
Yeah, but what he said, that arc weapons had explosive damage. That's only the disintegrator arc. Yeah. The three arc weapons have the three damage types. Although with the game balance, once that's done, I think arc weapons won't be that much of a problem. But it made me think of another question. Like, say you change some weapon balance a bit, will that also affect the storyline missions? Like those NPC stats?
It would kind of affect them to some extent, but first of all, we can make them hermetic so that they would stay as they were. And I don't really think that that's going to be a problem. I mean, it's going to mean that somebody will become 5% stronger and somebody else will be 5% weaker. I mean, that's going to be the bottom line. And I don't think that's going to be that big of an issue for, people who play IGW.
Yeah.
Because, yeah. And in the future, what I would really want to do is have, PvE missions in the storyline where you actually need to take multiple fleets or do it with multiple players. So you can either solo it with 5 fleets or go in with 5 of your friends and have, an armada of ships at your disposal.
Yeah.
But that's going to be future content. I mean, it worked. You can have up to 20 fleets connected into one battle server at once. So it's been tested out by the previous team. So I know that works. And, it's just going to take some time. So anyway, guys, any last questions before we close the, recording for today?
I have a question about the Founders packages.
Sure.
So, am I able to buy, like, let's say I want to spend like $50 weekly on a Founders package. So, could I buy like 4 $50 ones and it stacks to the 200, or would it just be
as
4?
long as you purchase them on a single email account. If you buy it on 4 email accounts, it's going to be on 4 different accounts.
Yeah, basically it adds up, and then after the founder sale, it looks at your total amount of money given, and it gives you all those rewards.
All right, that's good then, because I was planning to buy one every week up until November 3rd, whenever I get.
Thank you very much for the support. It means a lot to us, every dollar.
For your convenience, the link.
www.playimperium.com.
Say that again?
Playimperium.com.
I put it in the dev chat.
How long are we going to be able to play with these ships before something else comes up? That's the problem with Vega. They have all these. I don't have a problem spending money.
Can I answer that very quick?
Yes.
I said, we're not going to go Dragon Ball, and that's a problem that Vega Conflict and a lot of other games are doing. They are just taking 3 months, and in 3 months there's a new ship. Like I said, there is going to be a flat progression. If something is legendary, it means it's legendary. It's not going to go higher. I mean, we might increase the general cap of power on everything once a year by like 3%, and it's going to be incremental in the next 20 years, because that's how we're viewing the scope of the project. But if you're going to have a better ship, it's not going to be better than the previous one. It's just going to be different. It will have different abilities attached to it. It will have different perks and buffs. And if it's extremely OP, it will be nerfed. There is going to be no situation where the ships in IGW are just fucking broken. I cannot allow that as a game developer, because it's not going to work well for the player base over the next many years, and we intend to have IGW as a game that will flourish for the next 20 years.
Yeah, if something's OP, it ruins the game and people will quit, and it's not even fun to play anymore.
I mean, it's just stupid design methodology. You can make $5 now, or you can make 20 cents for the next 20 years. Or I mean that's just literally how it is. I would rather take the slower approach, but steady and without screwing anybody over.
Yeah, work you can actually be proud of, instead of, hey, this was successful for 1 year.
Yep.
And that also helped protect new players. Let's say the game's been going 6 years, and someone just finds it after, brand new to the game 6 years in. They're not stuck behind 6 years of progression.
Yeah, they're just going to be stuck for 3 months before they get the legendary stuff, and as they get the legendary stuff, or whatever time it's going to take them to level out a specific fleet or a single commander, focus on one thing, then they're going to be able to tackle the end game content, and then go for diversification of their arsenal. Then it kind of like in Warframe, you can collect all sorts of characters, but while some of them can be OP, others can also be. And if you have one character, you don't need anything else really. If you really wanted to play that way. But if you have others, it is going to make up for a better gameplay experience.
Now, what is the PvP level cap going to be? Because if I remember, Battle Pirates was plus and minus 5 level. Are they,
Right now in IGW there is no such thing. I think.
is that going to be implemented,
I
or
think we
the
should
talk of it,
I think
or?
we should do something like plus minus 10, just so that it's
But
fair. But
if you do that, also give the option to turn it off, so some weaker person can actually try fighting against a stronger person.
that too, and
Yeah.
it could be a situation where, first of all, the weaker player can still attack them, but it's like, oh, this is not advised. But at the same time, if someone higher wants to attack somebody, there could be an option, and it's just gonna say, sending out a duel request. You know, but we want to keep it fair, essentially.
Yeah, from what I remember, the first war, there wasn't really. There was always, the gankers, but from what I remember, there wasn't really too big of a problem with the higher levels just constantly, day after day after day, hitting the lower levels.
Yeah, but sometimes the higher level people would take out the low level fleets they see in some systems, but I don't remember it being that much of a problem.
No, I don't remember it being a problem. I know if someone was in an enemy territory, like a purple was in a red, I mean, all bets were off. You sent him home.
By the way, so do you have any other questions? And sorry, I cannot spell your name. Or it's it's Pris. Okay, but backwards. All right.
Yeah, somebody did that.
That's funny.
I'm glad though. You answered my question. I'm excited here.
Oh, thank you.
I had another question. I was just more in terms of the metrics, but do you guys have any idea in terms of the initial player count that you're expecting? / like any? Do you guys have any idea of the metric?
Well, once the game starts, it's very hard.
Were you able to hear that at all?
Yeah. What? So once the game starts, it's very hard to tell what amount of players we're gonna have. We have some options like putting the game on Congregate, where we could get a very huge influx of players, and we're gonna have the people who are obviously waiting for the game and have signed up, and we have 6,000 people who are waiting. And yeah, it's going to be a smaller crowd at first in the closed beta, but after we get the game out into the Unity client in 16 months, and even before that, we're going to have an increase in the amount of players. And in the future, I want IGW to be a massive game, as it was intended to be. The creator of IGW, and I'm not the person who created it, it was Mike Wallace, who's one of the most legendary MMO game developers in history. He has made more MMOs than any other person on the planet. He worked as a producer on EVE Online, Lord of the Rings Online, and a lot of other games. I mean, this is his brainchild and baby. And he wanted to do something like EVE Online Lite, where you can have one massive world and battles for 10,000 players, which is something that cannot be done in other games. IGW with that is a fairly unique kind of experience that's unparalleled in scope. And I think that in the future, if we make it so that it's like Clash of Clans, but you can actually move your troops around and see other players, it's going to be insane. I mean, that game has already been out. We just need to relaunch it. But the damn servers are a big problematic thing, unfortunately. So it's been taking so much to do that. Because the game runs on 460 cores, and I think there's like 700 gigabytes of RAM that's needed to operate it properly.
Also, you said something about closed beta, but what did you mean by that?
By that I mean that we might just go, depending on how we roll this out, we might limit the amount of players who can actually enter at first, but that's not going to be done in a way that's like, guys, you're going to have to wait God knows how much time before you can enter. No, it's going to be a situation where we're just going to have it fixed so that every day we're just going to let people in after pre-approval. So that we won't get a situation where some funny PewDiePie or whoever else just decides to crash your servers by adding 100,000 players, you know.
Yeah, like at the start, you don't know how many players you'll start, so you don't know how much your server has to handle.
The servers have been calculated. It's a very well thought out technology that was made by very smart people. There were 27 programmers working on it at Kabam Austin, and the guys have previously worked on things such as Knights of the Old Republic. So most of the guys who've worked on IGW have been hired from BioWare, which has just finished working on SWTOR. The guys have made a lot of games before, so let's just start with that. The calculations have been made, and with 10,000 euros spent on the servers, we should easily be able to have about 50,000 concurrent users online. So 50,000 people at once should be able to play the game with no problems. And
so you can maybe have like 45,000 people join, and after that it's a bit of pre-approval.
Yeah. I mean, no, it's only a matter of the amount of players at once, if you know what I mean. So that you won't have more than 50,000 players at once, which is going to be broken down into 24 hours. At any given moment, IGW, had a maximum amount of 11,000 people at once. And there was an average of like 26,000 people logging in daily. So not everybody, flushes the toilet in the same second, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we just have to account for the rush hours and peaks and some unexpected influx of user base that we might want to circumvent.
I mean, maybe at the login queue, like on the busy hours, you have to wait a few minutes to log in.
Yeah, but that's not going to be an issue, I think. But I just want to make sure that somebody like PewDiePie does not crash our servers.
Yeah, I doubt it will be an issue, but it's good to prepare for if it will be.
Of course, that's why we would do it closed. Plus, if for any reason something happens, like seriously, things can happen to any development project. You never know if something just won't happen bad to the servers. It's sometimes better to do it in a closed environment. I mean, we hope that nothing like that will ever happen, but the error 37 in Diablo 3 launch is very infamous for that, and you just never know what's gonna happen. So that's why the closed beta.
And I think that's about all questions from everyone, or?
Did you guys have any other plans in terms of ramping up marketing to get increased user base or anything like that?
Of course, but we need a lot of money for that. A single user costs about $2.5 right now with the current market trends. So we're waiting for the big tranche of cash. And as soon as we have that, we're going to be getting a lot of new users into the game. Not to mention all the PR and marketing that we're going to have up against the project once we go live. And we're working with Exola to drive a lot of traffic into IGW.
Cool, sounds good.
Awesome.
Can we still donate to help get this started?
Of course.
Faster?
I mean, it's playimperium.com.
Okay.
But I don't think that we would be able to get it faster than the 30th, to be honest. But
that's my birthday.
Oh. Well, we'll do our best to get it to you guys on that, and I hope that we can do the birthday wish.
Yeah. Okay, Praise, I pinged you in dev chat, and there's a link to the website where you can donate.
All right. So everyone, thank you for coming in. This concludes the recording, and see you next week on the IGW Dev Chat.
Dev?
Catch everyone next week.
See ya.